Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talk to Solomon. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Chief Steve Davis, the in-studio co-host.
And our out-of-studio, out of his mind, but never out of touch co-host is Brent Johnson. Brent, how are you this evening?
I'm doing just great. The world is a crazy place. Let's talk about it today.
Yes, we certainly will. Now, we have an interesting guest, a fellow talk show host. Her name is Katherine Albrecht. She is talking to us about the arrogance, what is it? She used some other words about Google. But anyway, Katherine, welcome to the show.
Hey, Stan. It's good to be on with both of you, actually, this evening. Hello.
It's nice to have you with us. There's three of us, actually. We have Brent
Hi,
Johnson.
Catherine.
And we have
Hi,
Steve,
Catherine.
and of course, I'm here.
Hello there. Yeah, terrific. Glad we can all be here together.
All right, thanks.
And you mentioned the G word, Google. I got to say, there's a whole lot going on with Google lately, and I'm here to hopefully encourage people to think twice before the next time they do that next Google search.
Yes, well, I think that many people assume that Google is a utility, that Google is something that's provided for us at no cost and at with no downside, and I think they may be misinformed. Tell us about it, please.
Yeah, I think people really think of Google as kind of this answer man in the sky who's just this benevolent company that exists for no other reason than to just answer your every question. And I've got news for everybody. That's not how it works. Multi-billion-dollar corporations don't give you all their products for free because those aren't products. They're bait, and you are the product when you use Google. The millions of people, without even thinking, use Google as their default search engine. When they get a brand new computer, you open up the portal to the internet, your web browser, and there, right there is Google. It's in a little window in the upper right-hand corner of most web browsers. And when you get your first computer, your first account at school, there's Google as your default search engine. And so as a result, the vast majority of searches being done in the United States are being done through the Google search engine. And the real problem here, I think, is probably best explained by just giving a little bit of my own personal history. Back in the 1980s, before we had an internet, I got a degree in marketing. And one of the things that I was told by my professors would be a real challenge would be getting people to reveal information about themselves through market research. And, I'll give you an example. If you were to call somebody up on the phone and say, hey, can you tell me, are you having problems with drug addiction, maybe drinking a little too much? Have you fought with your wife lately? Are you going through bankruptcy? What about foreclosure? How about, ever had hemorrhoids or dandruff? That person would say to you, take a hike. I'm not going to answer any of those questions. That's private. Well, so what Google hit on is this brilliant solution to this problem, because, see, Google is not a search engine provider of answers. Google is a marketing company. They really are a market research company because that's how they make all of their money. They do market research on us, the Google users, and then they use that information to sell advertising, which is what marketing is all about. So the way they came up with this, and it's so brilliant and so horrifying once you realize it, is they began paying all of the various computer manufacturers and all of the various folks who put all the operating systems together to put a little window called Google on the home page of your browser, so that you would just see this little thing here. You would type in 5, 10, 15, 20 times a day exactly the sorts of things that they want to know about you that you would never reveal intentionally. So every single time that you log on to Google, you think when you type in, I want information about breast cancer, or I want information about drug addiction, or I want information about sexually transmitted disease, you think that you're just going almost like a public library into some private place to get a private answer. But what you're really doing is you may as well just call up on the phone and say, hello, market research people, let me tell you what I'm interested in today, sexually transmitted diseases and drug addiction. And my name is so-and-so, and I live at this address. And by the way, I bet you have a picture of the front of my house, too, which they do, because their Google Street View drives down the street and takes photographs of the front of everyone's homes, as well as their satellite image from Google Maps takes a picture of your backyard. They know the size of your deck. They know whether you have a swimming pool. They know it all. And when I realized this, the real problem that came up for me, because I've been a privacy advocate since 1999, and I used Google for years, like everybody else. I loved Google. I thought Google was great. They answered all my questions, and I didn't think beyond that, even though I'm a privacy expert educated at Harvard University, and this is what I do for a living. When I realized what Google was doing, I really wanted to get off of Google, but there were no alternatives. And so what I did was I actually teamed up with a small company over in Europe to create an alternative. And that alternative is now available for you guys as well. It's called Start Page, S-T-A-R-T, like Start Protecting Your Privacy. And we named it that because for most people, Google is the start page or the first page they go to, and we want to replace it with our Start Page. When you go to startpage.com, what we do is, let's say you want to look up something like, drug addiction or whatever it might be, bankruptcy. You type it into Start Page, and then we take your question. We strip away anything that would identify you, like your IP address or any tracking cookies that you may have picked up along the way. We strip all that out, and from our servers, we simply submit your question directly to Google ourselves. So Google only sees us. We pay a very small micro payment each time we do this to Google. Google then gives us back a stream of information, the Google answers. We take those answers, we strip away all of the Google tracking cookies and surveillance, stuff, and then we serve the answer to you privately and anonymously, and then we delete all records of your visit to us. So no IP address is stored, no tracking cookies are used, we're third-party certified, we make no record of what you search for, and so Start Page truly is an entirely private way to access 100% Google results without all of that surveillance.
All right, just let me ask a couple questions to get our panel involved. You've educated us some. Some of that we knew. A lot of us don't like Google. They're just to the left of Lenin, and they're perverts. But other than that, I have good things to say about them. They do serve a purpose. So you're saying you can have your cake and eat it too. You can get the information, but not give them any information in return. That's in essence what your service does.
That's exactly right. So it's pretty cool. We don't have all the bells and whistles and all the other fancy stuff that Google has. There's no maps and there's no, all of that. But if what you're looking for is simply a search to find the pages on the internet that will answer your question, we have found that about 95% of what you want to do through Google, you can do through Start Page without even feeling the pain, without even noticing that you're not on Google, as long as you get used to, a new logo, a new color scheme. By the way, last week, Google made kind of a stir in Sweden because some Swedish dictionary people, part of the government, were making a new dictionary, and they included the word Googleable. And Google's lawyers had a fit, and they said, we don't want you to say Google it unless you mean use the Google search engine. And I loved it because as a fellow radio host, I can say that every single day that we say Google this or Google that on the air, we are providing free advertising to the tune of millions of dollars every day to this company across the country. So I am encouraging radio hosts to be thoughtful when they say Google this or Google that, because you're really using a proprietary name, and Google themselves doesn't want you to do it. So we're cool with that. We said instead of saying Google it, let's all start saying Start Page it, and that's what we do around here. It took a little while. It took me, a couple of weeks to get used to it, but around here we Start Page it.
All right, now let's go around the horn with our panel. Brent, thought or comment?
Well, firstly, it's great to hear you back on the air, and I hope you're feeling well. And it's been a long time since I've been on with you, Catherine, and it's just terrific. You sound great right now. And
thank you so much.
I'm
great to be back.
Just real glad to know you're out there. While you were talking, I just added Start Page to my Firefox browser. And I just reselected Start Page. It's a very simple process, folks. Bring up Start Page, and then it'll say Add to Firefox or Explorer, whatever you're using, and boom, it's done. So now I've got as my default Start Page. I just want you to know that, Catherine.
Well, thank you. Isn't that awesome? And, it's a simple thing to do, and once you do it, you're not committed. If you change your mind, you can pull down that little menu up there on the right, and Google is still one of your options. But, I call it kind of taking the Google needle out of our arms because we are all addicted to this company and, treating it like it's our best friend. And I think maybe the time has come to become just a little bit more aware. The other thing that I want to point out to you and your listeners has to do with Gmail, which is Google's email. And by the way, I don't mean to just single out Google because Yahoo and Bing do the exact same thing. If you do a search through Bing, and I know Microsoft's really trying to get people to switch, they also make a record of everything you search for and put it all in a dossier with your name at the top, so there's nothing different over there. It's just Google's the biggest. But let's talk email for a minute. When you use Gmail, what you don't realize is that in the fine print, you are giving them permission to read all of your email and to take the contents of all of your email and extract it from your email and put it all into the file that they keep on you. So that means if you're writing to somebody and, I don't know, your steamy love letters, or you talk about your schedule tomorrow, you're hiring a babysitter, you're talking about anything, you're corresponding with your weight loss coach, all of that information in those emails is fair game for Google to copy, to review, to read, to extract, and to put into your profile, and then to use for marketing purposes. So it's a really disturbing thing when you write what you think is a private email to somebody, and then 3 days later you're on a website and there's a honking ad for exactly that thing, and you say, how did they know? Well, they know because they're reading your email. And the best way to understand this is, about 2 years ago, we decided that we wanted to create StartMail, a private alternative to Gmail that would be completely private and would not read your email. And we discovered that it costs about $5 a month to create and run an email program for an individual, that you can't do this for free. So obviously Google is not providing millions of email accounts because they're just your best friend and love you and want to help you. They're doing it specifically because it is bait to lure you in to make all of your personal innermost correspondence available to them. And once again, think back to the 80s. If I, as a marketer, had tried to get access to everybody's phone calls and open all their email, I would have been put in jail. And yet Google can do this because it's there in the fine print, and you agree to it for this supposed free service. So, I had an experience where my doctor actually, and you had mentioned that, you're glad I'm back. I am a survivor, I guess, of breast cancer. I went through a rough 2-year period of treatment. And my doctor at one point said, send me your latest blood test. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. She gave me her email address, and it was drso-and-so@gmail.com. And I said, I can't send you my blood test as a PDF attachment, because if I do that, Google is going to have my date of birth. They're going to know who my insurance company is. They're going to know who my oncologist is. They're going to know what all my blood levels are. They're going to know everything about me just from one single email attachment, even though I don't even have a Gmail account. The mere act of my sending that to my doctor's Gmail account means that my information would be compromised. So I now have a policy where I don't even send email to people with Gmail accounts unless it's the most basic of, hi, give me a call. And even if I do that, I don't put my phone number in the email. I'm really sticky about that. So our new email service is going to be coming out at the end of this year. It's called StartMail. It will be not free. It's going to actually cost the $5 a month that it costs, and we think it's worth every penny and more. Totally encrypted, and when you use StartMail, not only do we promise that we won't read your email, but we actually have an encrypted disk that means we can't read your email. So multiple levels of protection. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing, and we're looking forward to offering StartMail later this year. If your listeners, by the way, would like to be beta testers or actually get their hands on one of the very first copies of StartMail, I can make that available if you'd like.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that as we get further along in the program. I don't use Gmail, and I recognize that there is a problem here when you get information. I'm intrigued by your concept. Now, there's a bill in Congress that the Democrats are trying to get through that would make a lot of this information available beyond where you have an agreement, even if you don't have agreements. I don't know if you're familiar with that bill, but it's to the point today that no one can expect any privacy whatsoever. I mean, they can turn the camera on in your computer when your computer's not on, if you happen to have it where it's watching you. Or where it can see you, or your kids, or your house, or whatever. And I think that's a big subject. Now, Chief Steve is 35 years in law enforcement. From a Fourth Amendment perspective, you know, or the Fifth Amendment, not to incriminate yourself, isn't this kind of going against that?
Well, if a private company asks you to sign something or agree to something and you do, that's not a violation. But if the government wants to get into your email business, the Constitution mentions your effects, and this would be part of your effects. In my opinion, this would be totally unconstitutional for them to do that. But one thing that I'm thinking about right now is our phones. I mean, most iPhones and Android phones, you have to have a Gmail account to activate them. So I'm sure they're also tracking something there more than just your email accounts.
Any ideas on that, Catherine?
Yeah, you know, the ACLU, say what you will about them, but they've done some interesting work on privacy. And a couple of years back, they actually came out with a report that explained how frequently the government was bypassing the Fourth Amendment by not even bothering to ask for the information from, or to try to obtain it by force, but simply by going to these companies and saying, hey, you've got the records and they're for sale, right? And they would simply buy them or just ask to be given the records. And what's interesting is that's a loophole, because the Constitution protects you against the government forcibly getting into your personal effects. But it doesn't bar the government, and this is the argument that they've made many, many times very successfully in court, that if you've already surrendered your rights to that information, if you've already surrendered your privacy by sharing that information with a corporate entity or with a third party, then you no longer really have a privacy interest to begin with if that third party chooses of their own volition to hand the information over. So that kind of raises a whole other set of questions, which is, you know, how much are we giving to these companies? Are we doing it consciously? Do we know what we're giving away when we use these so-called free services? And are we giving away our constitutional rights in the process as well? And I think the argument may well be yes.
All right, well, let's...
Well, the worst part is what Catherine just said, is that we're paying the government to get our own records.
Yeah,
they're using our money to do it.
There's another story out there that now the IRS is going to Facebook and Twitter, where obviously people have, quote unquote, put stuff out there for the world to see, whether they're friends or followers or not, because once you put it out there, it's out there, and they're using what people are saying to then, you know, catch them or trap them or prove that they are doing or not doing something. As I said, the expectation of any kind of privacy, the expectation that when you are in your own home, in your own bedroom or bathroom, that somehow you're protected, that's simply going away, is it not?
Yeah, I think this idea that we believe that we have some degree of privacy protection is becoming kind of a quaint notion of the past. And if I may, I'd like to tie this into new technologies that are coming out that are on the horizon now that I think are going to make even this conversation that we're having about privacy and government and corporations and knowledge and all of that obsolete, and very quickly obsolete. And that would be the drones and Google Glass, which are kind of two versions of the same idea, that some are saying as early as next year it may be possible for us, just off the shelf or from a website on the internet, to purchase our own little surveillance dragonflies, where you can have a little remote control joystick and you can control a tiny little dragonfly that's robotic with a camera on it and fly it into your neighbor's kitchen, or fly it into your neighbor's open bedroom window, or fly it into any old place that you want to go. I mean, this is like the stuff that even science fiction of 20 years ago couldn't conceive of. And they're saying now that this is going to be available off the shelf. So, you know, once again, it used to be that only the government would have access to something like this. We hear a lot about these aerial surveillance drones and such, but pretty soon that technology is going to be in the hands of just everyday people. And then I don't know if you were following the story today where Mitch McConnell, who is the highest-ranking Senate Republican,
the minority leader
just got
in the
himself
House.
into some trouble, too. The what?
Yeah, he's the minority leader in the House, and somehow they got a device inside a closed meeting where they were talking about a potential opponent of his in his upcoming re-election campaign.
Yeah. So, well, let me address that, because I talked about that on my radio show today. You know, in the Nixon era, and they're saying, oh, it's like Watergate, it's like a Nixon type thing. Somebody snuck in, and they're trying to call in wiretapping laws. You don't need wires, and you don't need to sneak in, and you don't need any kind of a Watergate-style break-in, because nowadays all you have to do in a meeting in order to do what happened in his meeting, which is to record some audio and send it to Mother Jones, all you've got to do is have a cell phone in there. You could take any smartphone, an iPhone, a Samsung phone, or whatever, and just turn it on. Turn on the app that records. You know, when was the last time you were in a meeting and everybody in there had a phone? I mean, everybody's staring at their phones through half the meeting anyway. So I think it's very funny that they're trying to bring in these wiretapping laws, and that he's claiming that somebody snuck some device in there. I bet you that whoever recorded that was one of every other person in that room who just set their cell phone on the table like everybody does in a meeting and just proceeded to turn on an app to record the sound. And that's really the point, that these surveillance technologies no longer require you to be a secret agent spy. Everybody's going to have access to them. And speaking of Google, getting back to Google really quickly, Google has a new product out called Google Glasses, or Google Glass.
Right.
And what it is it's a pair of glasses that actually turns individuals into surveillance operatives, essentially, by wearing this device. It's got a microphone, it's got a video camera, and every place you go and everything you see, you have the ability, or it simply could be turned on without your knowledge, to upload all of that information into the cloud and onto Google's servers. And it's a mortifying thought that you could be in a meeting. I mean, what happened to Mitch McConnell today was nothing compared to what's going to be happening in the future, because in the future you would have had everybody in that room wearing Google Glasses recording every second of that interview. So these are the sorts of things I think people need to be very, very aware of. And what I always say is, every time I talk about this, it can be a little discouraging. I try to encourage people. This is why I help to create Start Page. This is why we're coming out with email. Maybe we'll come out with some way to defeat Google Glass in the future or protect you against drones.
I have a great idea. You ought to come up with a Start Page fly swatter.
There you go, exactly.
And
Start Page fly swatters, I love it. It would detect if it's in the house.
It will detect anything electronic flying about, and use some sort of infrared beam to isolate it, and then just smash the sumbitch.
I'm telling you, well, we're going to need things like this, because the only way to fight this technology really is going to be to use creative ingenuity and find solutions.
All right, let me get back around the horn before we run out of time. Brent.
Two things. Firstly, there is a company in Oregon, they started up in February of this year, called Domestic Drone Countermeasures. And they were started by a bunch of engineers who worked on drone technology, because the engineers saw the potential for all this abuse that Katherine is mentioning. And what this Domestic Drone Countermeasures company is going to offer to the public this year, beginning this year, are ways to defeat. We're not talking about the kind of drones that they send out to Afghanistan or Pakistan, but the kind of drones you're talking about, the little dragonflies, things like that. They're going to offer defensive technology to prevent them, the drones, from being able to spy on you. And so this is a whole new industry that I think is cropping up. The other thing is, and more power to them, the other thing is, I just read about Google Glass also. Google Glass is insidious, because what it's essentially going to do, it's going to make people who are wearing the glasses be online all the time, essentially. So people are going to, Star Trek Next Generation did something called The Game, did an episode called The Game, that was this type of thing. It's something that people wore that became so highly addictive that they didn't want to do anything except play the game. That's what these Google Glasses are going to, in my opinion, become. They're going to become so highly addictive. People are going to be wired into the net all the time, and they're going to lose perspective on reality. And that's where we're heading.
It's really a wild concept. And, you know, if you look at what the transhumanists like Ray Kurzweil say, he's looking forward to the singularity where we just dump these bodies all together and we just become a permanent part of the network. We upload our souls into the machine for safekeeping. And as a Christian, I have to say that sounds a lot like hell.
Well, what is that Star Trek?
Sounds like the Borg.
Star Wars, the Borg. Yeah, we all become part of the Borg. To resist is futile. I have an idea. Everyone should find out where Google is. Just go to Google Maps, find out where Google's headquarters is, urinate in a bottle, and then arrange for it to be dropped in their vicinity. Just a thought. Chief?
First of all, the Borg was called the Collective, which is a socialist, communistic word. But I just want to thank Katherine for what she's doing, because this is a very, very scary thing that's happening to us. No one's going to be able to control the information that they have. It's all going to be released, and I don't think human beings can live their lives totally exposed. We need some kind of privacy in our lives, and it's all going to disappear unless we stop these kind of endeavors.
All right, now, Katherine, give us, in fact, when we end the show, you stay on the line, and they're going to get the necessary information, because we'd like to put something on our website that would allow people to know about First Page and that type of thing.
That's Start Page, START, startpage.com. And then my website for my daily radio show is my name, KatherineAlbrecht.com, and I do a live daily radio show myself. And we talk about all these issues Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day. And you can also find, if you want to learn more about some of the other work I've done, you can go to antichips.com, because we are the folks who put an end to human chipping a couple of years back of the human.
Yeah, I remember Terry Cook was working on that. Sergeant Cook from Los Angeles. Now, I'm old. That goes way back. You're a relatively young lady. But when they first started this idea of putting chips in people, first in dogs and then in people and so on, and they didn't have anywhere near the technology they have now. It's surely going to be to the point that we'll have the mark of the beast.
We've got all of that. Yeah, well, I'm a Christian, a Bible-believing Christian, and I've actually authored a children's book that will be coming out later this year called I Won't Take the Mark, which is about exactly that, teaching children the lessons of Revelation so they will grow up knowing to say no when the mark of the beast does come.
All right, Brent, did you have something else?
And yeah, just to say that Katherine has been at the forefront. I know Katherine from when she was just getting started with Consumers Against Supermarket Privacy and dealing with the supermarket stuff that they were collecting.
That was way back in 1999. I know, Brandon.
Way back
how far we've come in all these years. Isn't that wild? Yeah.
And
in fact, you were one of the first radio hosts ever to interview me ever.
I know.
I think you were like the second or third.
Yeah, I know. And you have just been working so diligently, so hard, and I just want to acknowledge Katherine here on the air for all the good that she has done by her efforts in the last, now it's going on 15 years. Well, we'll certainly have
Katherine back, because we're out of time right now. But Katherine, we have all of your information. We're going to post it on our website and hopefully drive some people to Start Page, because I know I'm going to go there. Thanks so much for being with us.
And
thank you. God bless you all. Thanks for having me on. Bye-bye.
Bye.
God bless, Katherine. Stan, please pass that information on to me as well so I can do the same.
We will do the same. Thank you. We'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey, the backup people. I like to eat. Do you like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 supercolloidal silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get supercolloidal silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.